clap in. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Nope, that's not what's gonna work. Okay, intro. This is the worst part. I do like this background. It's very nice. I got it. I can do this. Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm a costume designer in New York City, and I'm going to be walking you through a Showgirl rendering today inspired by birds. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, first things first, I like to use an 11x17 piece of paper, either Bristol board cut down or cardstock. I like to do this for two reasons. One, because if I'm using markers, the smooth side of the Bristol or the smooth side of cardstock is going to be your friend as far as not absorbing all of your ink. And two, I like to throw it through the printer and just take a sketch, clean it up on my Procreate app on my iPad, and then run it out so that I have multiple copies in case the director changes his mind or I don't like the color that I've laid down. This also allows me to print some 8.5x11 test sheets so that I can just go ahead and figure out color placement and exactly which markers I want to use in a finished rendering. So what I'm starting to do here is I'm using Lilac to go into all of my low lights on the face, and then I'm going to pop in with some sky blue light. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some bronzer color to kind of warm up the face, and what I'm using there is the Prismacolor Goldenrod. On the neck, I started by using a cool gray and lilac again, and this is because I'm going to do a makeup design where her neck is the lilac of the lilac breasted roller. In case I don't say the name of a marker or the brand of a marker that you're interested in, it's going to be in the description below. I'm going to try to subdivide them into categories. I'm going to blend this all out with the first pass of her skin tone. In this case, I'm using 103 Potato Brown from the ShinHan Touch Twin Brush Tip Markers. Next what I'm doing is I'm moving into the makeup design, and what I'm doing is I'm going to use a nice scarlet red color, which is actually the Poppy Red by Prismacolor, and a little bit of the Rhodamine that I used in the neck. Moving on to the hair, I'm just adding some deeper, darker browns before I'm adding in a little bit of black with a Micron pencil, just to give it a nice hair texture and some depth of color, because it's not just black hair, it has a highlight and a shadow to it, just like everything else. Okay, I know underpainting always looks strange before the skin tone is added, but it truly gives a depth and warmth that simply shading with a darker color doesn't provide. Moving into the all-around skin tone, what I like to do when I'm working with bigger sections of the body is keep my brush strokes really nice and even, and I like to work within the contours of the body. So as you can see, I'm going around kind of the buttock and the thigh, and then I'm just working my way inside in a really cylindrical kind of fashion. I'm letting my brush strokes enhance the shading. So I'll go back over and over again the same part that needs to be darker, but I'm going to do it in the same shape as the shading. Up next is the Showgirl backpack. This is the feather backpack. This is what all the jewels will hang off of. And I found a pretty great way to render ostrich feathers in marker. They're always a really hard thing to do, which is why I decided to do this for my first tutorial. But what I do is I lay in a really, really light value of a color, and then I come back in with a mid-tone, and I do that with the broad stroke tip of the Prismacolor, and that lets me, if I do it in circular motions, that lets me get that kind of feathery feeling, but it still diffuses out. I like to work wet on wet with the markers in this capacity so that they really, really blend out together. Then what I do is once it's dry enough, I come back in with the sharp point tips of the mid-tone and of the deepest tone and create little circular feather brush strokes, and I make sure that I extend past the edge where I've drawn and into the white plane so that it really looks feathery and translucent. I'll even come back at the end with a white gel marker and just hit a couple of circular areas on the feathers to give it even more definition. I'm coming in with the Rhodamine again for the panty, and that's just going over the same cool gray as the throat so that it really blends in with the makeup design. I'll probably come in a little bit later with some white gel pen to enhance the jewels. Now, onto the big Showgirl feather piece. This is something that goes laterally across the body, and I'm going to just do the same thing that I did for the yellow backpack, but I'm going to do it in a bigger scale with cool blues. And I think I used about 5 different colors of blue to really achieve the depth that I wanted, but you really want to think about the deeps and the darks and the shadows and the highlights. You really want to think about where everything's going to lay, where the light's going to come through, how the light is going to bounce around inside of all those little tendrils of the feathers. Alright, moving on to the feather spikes. I imagine that these actually aren't feathers. I don't know that you could really get feathers in this length and width, but what I'm imagining these are is like big pieces of fabric that have been wired and painted to look like pheasant feathers. Now I'm just adding in the jewelry, the jewels, the gemstones, the beads, all of that. What I'm going to do to create the details is I'm going to take a little bit of the gel pen and just bump a little highlight on the gemstone on each one individually. And this is my trick if I don't want to add rhinestones. When I do add rhinestones to a rendering, they're always the nail art rhinestones or the very tiny like 8mm Swarovski crystals, but I find that those work for big gemstone pieces. I don't add them to everything. I only add them to things that I know are extravagant and crazy. I'm probably not going to add them to this because I want to save them for a later project.
Let me get a drink. Let me get a drink. Let me just get a little drink. It's fine. This is going to be not a tutorial channel at all. And just like that, she's done. I did a few things off camera. I added some stones. I said I wouldn't. I did it anyway because I can't help myself. The last thing to do is to add the signature. And that's what we costume designers do. We always do it across the foot, or at least that's what I'm told to do, so that no one can use it without my permission. Thanks so much for watching. Next time we'll do another Showgirl inspired by a bird. And if that's the content you want, like and subscribe. It'll be a blast. I mean, I might go with that because that's really stupid.